So, by the time that this video goes live, yesterday, and I say yesterday knowing full well that I'm actually filming this and I'm talking about a future event, but by the time you guys view this, yesterday, Justin Larson will have revealed Hulking Scalon. And there's a chance I'm mispronouncing that. It could be Scalon, could be something else, but I'm going to call it the Hulking Scalon. And this thing is as close to an unstoppable juggernaut as you can get in Legends to date. This is a 10 cost 10/10. It's an epic, so it's not a unique legend or anything, and it's immune to lethal, immune to shackle, and your opponent cannot target it with actions. That thing is a monster, quite frankly. It is very tough to kill, very resilient. Reminds me a bit of Iron Atronach, but unlike Iron Atronach, this thing does not die to a Fighters Guild recruit. That's right. Somebody who is a brand new member of the Fighters Guild who just happens to have a pointy dagger cannot kill this the way it can take down an Iron Atronach. And this card is very interesting to me because, yes, it is resilient, but it doesn't mean there aren't still ways to deal with it. It is still killable with something like Dawn's Wrath or the less popular Immolating Blast if RNG goes your way. It can still die to Manticora. And on that note, that tells me Manticora is still far too powerful. Please nerf Manticora. Hear my words. But like Leaf Lurker, for example, is another way that you could potentially target this. And you can still silence it. So cards like Earthbone Spinner and other creatures that have silence effects can do a lot of work here as well. But it is very resilient. And what's scary is it can also like hide in the shadow lane to go a step further, and it is big. Like, this is one of the best creatures I've ever seen that doesn't have an immediate effect. The big issue with most of your creatures when you're starting to play stuff late game is if it doesn't have some sort of summon effect, it's typically not worth your time. If you're going to spend that much magicka, so that many resources on a card, you need some sort of immediate return. You can't just have it die to a piercing javelin, get hit by a cast into time, and then you've spent, 9 or 10 magicka and they spent half that. So it's a big tempo loss, right? This negates a lot of that. This might single-handedly, if it becomes popular, bring back Dawn's Wrath as a popular choice. This card is just really interesting to me. And I'm curious to see if it's going to end up seeing play. And the reason I say that I'm curious is because, yes, it is very hard to kill, which might make it attractive, but it costs 10. So your aggressive decks, for example, don't want to play this, right? They're trying to curve out by like magic of 5. Aggro Warrior doesn't run anything that costs more than 5. Halalu doesn't run anything that costs more than 5. So this isn't on their radar. You could say, okay, maybe a mid-range deck, but yes, this is hard to kill, but like, why would I run, just for an example, right? Hulking Scalon over Atromancer, Atromancer has a lot of stats and gives you immediate value and is somewhat resilient itself because except for Ice Storm, nothing kills it, 1-for-1 on its own, right? So you do have some comparisons to make. So like maybe you put it in a mid-range deck, but maybe not. And then when you start talking about something like a control deck, the fact that this does not have guard, it does not have drain, it doesn't do anything to stabilize. Like, yeah, it's a finisher. This will close out a game if it goes unanswered. That's a pretty fast clock. A 10/10 hits hard. If you've ever played Odahviing, for example, Odahviing can close out a game. But the difference between this and Odahviing is that Odahviing also helps you stabilize. It wins the board. Where Hulking Scalon does not help you do that. You have to have either already stabilized or you're already generating pressure, and then this is what is hopefully going to close it out for you, but it's a less immediate closer. So, Tazcad, for example, doesn't have the stats and doesn't have the full resiliency that this does, but Tazcad is cheaper and gives you 6 damage right away and maybe leaves a body behind. Now, yeah, Tazcad is a unique legendary, so the power level isn't quite the same, but again, the unique legendary part kind of doesn't matter because a lot of the times the decks that want to run Tazcad as a closer or your Encanos or whatever aren't running a full set of closers. It's been almost a year, 10 months or so since we've seen decks that used to run, 3 Atromancers at their top end. Like, yeah, there was a time when you would run a mid-range deck and then you would slap in like 3 Supreme Atromancers as your top end, but It's been a long time since decks have done that. Most of the time now, you're looking at 1 or 2 closers, and again, that's often some unique legendaries, or even if it's not, it's something like Child of Hersine. But again, Child of Hersine is, excuse me, not Child of Hersine, Aspect of Hersine. My mistake. The one that can either be a 12/12 guard or the 6/6 charger, right? That one's attractive because it, again, either represents immediate value or a big guard. So the 12/12 stats are great, but if you need to be defensive, it can at least, you know, granted in a very primitive way, it can at least put up a big wall in front of you if you're trying to stall. And this does neither. Yes, this is very hard to kill, but it does not help you stabilize, and it's not an immediate closer. So I'm very interested to see how this card is going to end up playing out, because I could totally see this thing actually becoming popular. I know that sounds weird, but it's a delayed closing, but this thing is resilient enough that, you know, I could see people including, you know, maybe a couple of them, at least for testing purposes at a minimum. But it does not help you stabilize, and it's not an immediate closer. So, really, really interesting. Now, I want to know what you guys think, right? When you see this, what comes to mind? Do you think that it is still not enough because of no immediate value or no last gasps or anything like that? Are you excited to play this? Do you think that this will serve as an adequate closer even if you do have to wait a turn after developing it? You know, do you plan to play it? Are there combos that you want to play with it? Things like that. So, you know, let me know what you think. I love reading the comments. Yes, I'm on the road right now. Well, not right now. Right now I'm pre-filming this, but by the time this releases, I will be in another country, but I will still be checking comments on my phone and doing my best to see everybody's reactions to the card reveals, because this is my favorite time for Legends and for all card games, is when new stuff is coming out and, you know, people's minds are spinning and, you know, they're theory crafting. So I want to know what you guys think. And that's it for this one. So thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.